again, disappointing to me. I mean, to a large extent, leadership comes from the top. We have this climate right now, so pardon me, Charlotte, where, somebody can say something like that and I guess feel comfortable saying it. It's like it is literally tit for tat. It's some type of horse race or competition going on, and this is just part of it. Okay, so got some bombs. Well, you all came for Kavanaugh. I mean, I've never seen anything like this.
Well, it's almost also kind of like every day is opposite day. Like
Yeah,
or
yeah.
one of the things that really freaked me out about Kavanaugh, and I think this is a really interesting anecdote, is I don't know if you guys noticed this, but during the Kavanaugh hearings, both Lindsey Graham and Kavanaugh himself essentially said, "What goes around comes around. We're coming for your nominees."
That's right.
You
That's
know,
true. That's true.
and
Yes.
and what I found to be very alarming about that is that suggested to me that they thought that the Christine Blasey Ford testimony and all the other allegations were all just totally made up and fabricated by Democrats, and that the implication to me was, if they can make up crap about our nominees, we're going to make stuff up about theirs.
Yeah.
And that's something that, first, frankly, I don't think the Me Too movement is prepared for that possibility. And in general, I think that some Republicans have looked at the Kavanaugh thing like, look, he got through, he's on the court, we got what we wanted, like, it's over. That's why I'm a little bit skeptical of Republicans, of pundits who say, oh, there's going to be a red wave because of Kavanaugh. Like, I think if he had not gotten on the court, that would be a more likely scenario. But I think a lot of Republicans are kind of like, great, we got what we wanted, whatever, we'll move on. But you're right that there are a lot of Republicans who are like, they came after our guy and we're going to come after them. And there's this escalating rhetoric that feels almost like a culture war.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, thanks for sharing that experience, Q. But I would hope.
Absolutely.
When did this happen again? This happened yesterday?
This happened yesterday. I'm still blown away by it, Mark.
In the midst of all this, yeah. That's scary. That's scary. All right, man. You're going to vote, right?
Okay. Oh, absolutely. I am coming out and voting. My wife's voting, my kids, and
good.
We are definitely not taking this sitting down. And I think there is going to be a blue wave. I just feel it in my heart. I can't believe that we can sit back and let this imbecile take this country to like a third world dictatorship. And we can't allow it. It cannot happen. It can't happen.
Hey, Q, where are you based?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
So is your sense, what's your sense in Columbus from your friends and neighbors about whether they're planning to vote?
Well, we see the yard signs. We've got ours out supporting the Democratic candidates in the area. I think it's like the last time in 2016 where people are not really saying who they're going to vote for. But I think that, the talk around the water fountain is that, things are not right. And, the people that voted for Trump last time are very quiet. So you can't really get a feeling from what they're doing. But the Democrats are fired up out here. We are absolutely, looking to, right the wrong that happened in 2016. There are a lot of yard signs out there supporting Democratic candidates. There's a lot of enthusiasm on the ground. And I just think that there is going to be a blue wave. It's just how big the tsunami is going to be. I don't believe that people are going to, sit back and take this.
Yeah. Good to hear. Thank you, Q.
Okay, no problem.
Folks,
you guys have a great morning.
Folks, stay up now. Don't be discouraged. Get out to vote. Don't let any of this discourage you. Joining us now, and it's 18 minutes past the hour, folks. Joining us now, the political director for the Democratic Party, Amanda Brown Lierman. Amanda, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
And we're also joined by Charlotte Alter here in studio with Time Magazine, who's on her way to cover some women running for office.
Yeah. Hey, Amanda.
I love it. How are you?
Good.
So, Amanda, how are things looking?
They're good. I mean, just hearing the excitement even from Q out in Ohio, I think he's right. Democrats are fired up. But one of the things that, we have to be mindful of is that we have just under 2 weeks left, and we have to keep our head down. We have to keep knocking on the doors, sending all the text messages we can, talking to our friends and family, and honestly, strangers, just to make sure that everyone knows what's at stake this election cycle, what's on the ballot, that they're educated about how, where, and when to go vote on November 6th. Hopefully some are voting before. So, right now it's all turnout, and we're doing everything we can to have as many conversations as we can in this final stretch.
Is there any truth from your point of view to this notion of the enthusiasm gap being closed and Republicans coming out as enthusiastically as our side?
I mean, I think that, the one thing that Republicans do very well is they use scare tactics. We've seen that time and time again. So I think focusing on the fact that people are fired up, they understand that there are amazing, incredible candidates that even Charlotte will go cover that are on the ballot that are running. They're running because they were so fired up. But you have amazing people. Even I think one of my favorite stories from this election cycle is a woman out in Arizona 8, Haral Tipernini, who had gone to the Women's March. She came home. She was, mad as hell and wanting to do more. And she had 3 daughters. She was an ER doctor. And her daughter said, "Mom, okay, you're mad. What are you going to do about it?" And she said, "You know what? I'm going to run for Congress." And now she's running for Trent Frank's seat out in Arizona 8. And you just have so many of those stories that people are turning that frustration into motivation and running for office. And I think you're going to see the exact same thing happen with frustration into motivation to get to the polls and go cast a ballot to make sure that we're fighting and standing up for all of the democratic values that we so truly believe in.
We actually had Haral on the show, folks. She was on the show with us a couple of months ago.
Great.
She is great. Has the Democratic Party made any statement or released any formal statement as a result of the bomb scares in the past 24 hours?
I mean, we've done everything we can to make sure that security is in place. We've been talking very closely and working very closely with a lot of the candidates and campaigns to make sure that the physical premises of the campaigns are safe as well. There's a lot of best practices that are being shared. We have brought in some real experts, even just at the DNC, that have been lending and sharing that expertise across the country because, we want to make sure that everyone is safe, and that is, of course, the first priority.
But can we deny, can we acknowledge, can the Democratic Party acknowledge that it appears to be a targeting of Democratic Party members and officials?
Yeah, and I think, it's very clear, just based on who was targeted, right, that we have to do more, and we have to make sure that we're doing everything to keep people safe. I think, you can speculate, and that's totally fair. People are doing that. I do think our first priority is to make sure that people are safe.
What's your reaction? Because obviously, politics doesn't take a day off. There are those on the other side of the aisle who are suggesting some type of equivalency, that there's a rhetoric that lends itself to these types of actions coming from both sides. Now, for me, I've not seen any Democratic candidates do that. But what's your reaction to those on the other side that would level that charge that both sides create the rhetoric that caused yesterday's actions to occur?
I personally find that hard to subscribe to, as the belief and understanding around that. I think, right now we're focused on making sure that everyone is safe, everyone has the opportunity to cast a ballot at the polls, which I would also just, caution is another
Right.
place where we are doing everything we can to make sure that we're protecting the right that people have to vote. And, history has shown us that Republicans, they do everything they can and are literally spending, millions of dollars to prevent people from voting. You're seeing it happen already during early vote. It's hard to understand what's going on in Georgia without, sort of pointing fingers.
Right.
And it's just something that we have to make sure that we're fighting back, make sure that everyone understands what their rights are so that when they go to the polls, they don't run into any of that nonsense. And if they do, they know what number to call. They know how to get help so that they can make sure that their vote is cast.
Just to point it out, there's news. The lawsuit filed by the ACLU got a ruling yesterday from a U.S. District Judge, Lee May, who directed Brian Kemp to instruct election officials and county boards of elections that absentee ballots with alleged voter signature mismatches should be marked as provisional rather than rejected. So that's somewhat of a victory in that ongoing struggle down in Georgia to be sure that there's not any voter suppression. But that's one thing we have to fight against. Charlotte.
Amanda,
Yeah, definitely.
are there any races that have, really kind of changed in the last week or two that have gotten suddenly really tight that you didn't expect would be in play?
I think we're really excited about a lot of the gubernatorial races.
Mm-hmm.
Tom's been campaigning across the country. I think that's been a place where we definitely have let our guard down. We're trying to make sure that we're building up those seats, building that bench up to make sure that we have, control of states going into the redistricting conversations that are coming up. So I think, we're paying very close attention to those. We're also paying close attention to some Supreme Court races at the state level, knowing that many of those positions also are in a position of power going into redistricting conversations. But, I think just to go back to even what Q was saying about the blue wave, it's not going to happen unless we work for it. And so that's, we are heads down, making sure that we are doing everything we can to have as many conversations with voters as possible, again, about what's at stake and the urgency in this election cycle.
All right.
Oh, yeah, no, so, and then, here, one of the things that I think is really interesting and exciting about Democrats this year is that there is a real kind of focus on local offices and local races in a way that there wasn't under Obama. Has there been kind of a what's been happening inside the party in terms of changing course to refocus on these local races?
I think that there's a lot that has led us to that, and there are certainly many things to debrief from, just lessons learned in history. But we know that that's where the power is, and we want to make sure that we have as many Democrats sitting in those positions of power as possible. I think there are places, even Ohio is a great example of this, where we just literally weren't running Democrats before. There were just pure vacancies. And so a lot of the states have been taking aggressive stances just to make sure that we're literally just playing in these races. And, that's the first chance. I think there's also just a surge in people that are excited and fired up and wanting to step up and run for office. And you're seeing that happen at every single level. I think, one of the great examples even from 2017 is these four in deep red territory. We were able to pick up and flip 4 state ledge seats out in Oklahoma. That's unheard of, but it's literally just because Democrats weren't running there before. So I think there's been a big education game just in terms of, people understanding the opportunities, people understanding the impact who the decision makers are in their daily lives. And then just to get a little wonky with you for a second, many of us have also, taken a vested interest in sort of what I would call nested opportunities. So understanding, too, when you work down ballot, what significance that has up the ballot,
right,
and vice versa. And I think there were a lot of lessons learned from the Virginia cycle. I remember when I first walked in, I waddled into the DNC at 7 months pregnant, actually. But when I first got there, I remember one of my early conversations was about, maybe we can flip 4 seats in Virginia. And then we worked with the state party. We worked with Democrats, progressives in the state, and we ran Democrats in places, again, that we had never run before. And then you come with a net of 15 state ledge seats, right? So it's literally just about running and playing everywhere. And, I think the investments that we've made at the DNC have been focused on organizing everywhere also to make sure that no zip code is untouched and no voter even feels like their vote is being taken for granted.
Very, very important. The Hill is reporting that there are yard signs being set on fire outside Dallas, Beto O'Rourke yard signs, as a matter of fact. So, folks, we're still dealing with some pretty crazy behavior these days. Amanda Brown Lierman, political director of the Democratic Party. Amanda, to be transparent, there was this news coming out last week, which troubled me. People were on television saying that the Democratic Party, the DNC, had not reached out to Latino voters, and I found that hard to believe. So I text Tom. Perez. I said, Tom,
Good for you.
what in the world is, and not to charge him, but I just didn't believe it. I said, Tom, what in the world is this? So he did release a statement last week to show that there has been outreach, and that in fact it is increasing to the Latino electorate. Can you expound on that?
No, definitely. We have spent a lot of time trying to also fight back against this narrative because it is so true that even at the DNC, we've made significant investments, unprecedented investments to make sure that we're organizing in the Latino communities. And we've been having those conversations with candidates and campaigns across the country to make sure that they're part of every universe, that they're feeling that communication, they're getting a touch, they're getting invited to events, that we're calling voters that only speak Spanish in Spanish, right? We're trying to make sure that all of those field opportunities and events are in place to make sure that voters are getting that information and they're getting that campaign touch, because it is so true. When you don't feel touched, when you don't feel heard, you don't want to participate in the system. And I think we have learned that lesson. We've seen how that plays out in history. None of us want to relive that. And so we have done a lot at the DNC in terms of making investments. I think we've spent literally nearly $3 million into state parties to invest specifically in Latino organizing programs. We've funded organizers that are on the ground in Latino dense turf across the country, again, to make sure that those programs are built, and not even just for this cycle, but built for the long term. Because I think that's where you see also a lot of the atrophy happen, is in between election cycles. And we want to make sure that the organizing investments we're making into these communities are for the long term, so that people have a way to participate and understand that sort of point of entry with the Democratic Party. And then I think it's also just a lot about the issues and having real conversations, so that, again, people understand that when you vote for Democrats, you are voting for the dreams of immigrant children. When you vote for Democrats, you are voting for that health care is a right and not just a privilege. And when you're voting for Democrats, you're voting for the economy, and you're voting for hardworking, or for good paying jobs for hardworking families. I think when you have those level of conversations with voters from any background, I think it is very clear to see the dichotomy and the differences between what Republicans stand for and what Democrats are doing and fighting for every single day.
Yeah, you're right. And I hope people do remember and are reminded about, what happened during the whole family separation saga. The Democrats,
right. And Tom, Tom went down to the border, and he experienced that, and
So Democrats are not organizing the caravan. Democrats are not sending pipe bombs to themselves. It's trending on Twitter right now, fake bombs, literally. And we knew Lawrence O'Donnell tweeted yesterday that was going to happen, and then I commented that that actually happened in the civil rights movement. When black churches were bombed, they would say we were bombing them ourselves, and when black churches were being burned in the 90s, they would say we were burning them ourselves, and that just wasn't true. So we're praying for everyone's safety, as Amanda has stressed, and and that's really the job she and others have to do now, to make sure that all of the Democratic candidates themselves are safe and taking the necessary precautions. And we hope some of this can kind of tone down.
Right.
And
voting should not be scary. It should be fun.
Yeah.
So Trump is tweeting this morning. Right now, we'll let you react to this. A very big part of the anger we see today in our society is caused by the purposely false and inaccurate reporting of the mainstream media that I refer to as fake news. The mainstream media must clean up its act fast. So he's back on fake news. What's your reaction to that, Amanda? Is that helpful? Is that a presidential response, you think?
I think absolutely not. I think we all just have to keep our heads down and remember that that's what that's the enemy. That's what we're trying to defeat.
All right. And Maxine Waters is tweeting that she is not scared. So hopefully we can all get some inspiration.
And we should all
too.
take our marching orders from her.
I know that's right. we love Maxine. Amanda, Thank you. So are you traveling? What part of the country are you in right now? Where are you working right now?
I am in D.C., but I will be hitting up some of our battlegrounds. Georgia has a special place in my heart, too. I'm from Georgia 6, so I'm really excited to get down to campaign for Lucy Macbeth and hopefully help Stacey Abrams, too.
Good. And I know Lucy will be glad to see you, too. We all need to help her as well. She deserves to win.
Definitely.
Indeed. Amanda, thank you so much, okay?
Thank you.
And you be safe as well.
You too.
All right. Take care now. Amanda Brown Lierman, political director of the Democratic Party. So yeah, we just read the tweet from Trump. He's still on fake news.
I mean, like, of course he is. You know, this is one of the things that has driven me the most crazy about Trump coverage since the election is this idea that just around the corner there's a softer, gentler Trump who isn't going to call the media the enemy of the people. It's like, and even, I even saw some coverage of the speech last night where, like, he said something like, we have to come together. Oh, you played the clip. And just because the speech was not 100% the media is the enemy of the people, people gave him, like, such he's trying to heal the wounds. It's like, no, he's not. I think people just need to stop expecting anything different from him.
You notice how when he was giving that speech, you can tell when he is literally reading a script.
Oh yeah.
And he's constrained because he wants to continue to carry on and say the things that he's saying.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just think what's scary about this is almost how not crazy it seems. That's what is so scary about this, is that this actually seems totally in line with everything we've seen for the last 2 years.
In this current climate we're in. Indeed. Charlotte Alter with Time Magazine. Folks, your reactions to what's going on, especially the big news of these bomb scares, 866-99-SERIOUS. We'll take your calls just before our next guest join us. Folks, one of the most important things we do for our health every day is brushing our teeth, yet most of us don't do it properly. Quip is a better electric toothbrush created by dentists and designers, and it was designed to make brushing your teeth more simple, affordable, and even enjoyable. Quip's sensitive sonic vibrations are gentle on your gums and stop people from brushing too hard. Quip's built-in 2-minute timer pulses every 30 seconds, so you will know when to switch sides to help guide the 90% of us who don't brush the full 2 minutes or brush unevenly. And as if they needed to make it any easier, new brush heads are sent to you every 3 months for just $5. You will never use worn out or old brushes again. Quip is one of the first electronic toothbrushes accepted by the American Dental Association and has thousands of verified 5-star reviews. Find out today why everyone loves their Quip and why they are backed by over 20,000 dental professionals. Quip starts at just $25. And if you go to quip.com/MIP right now, you get your first refill pack for free with a Quip electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/MIP. That's GETQUIP.com/MIP. 866-99-SERIOUS. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and get to a few more of your calls. Don't go away. Sirius XM Progress 127 Resistance Radio in studio with us. Very special guest. Happy to have her with us, as a matter of fact. Charlotte Alter of Time Magazine. You can follow her on Twitter too, at Charlotte Alter. Alter Family Politics airs on Radio Andy at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You don't want to miss that either. Don't go away. This is MIP.
Oh, what's going on?